Good morning, everyone, or good evening for those in Budapest. My name's Grant Cohn, and that is Botond from Budapest, the latest person to become a full-time journalist who's worked with me. He is a NFL broadcaster in Hungary. We're very proud. If you want to be like Botond, sign up with my team because Botond is killing it. How you doing, Botond?
Hey everyone, glad to be here as always. I'm so happy that I can be here again. As long as you invite me, I will never say no. So I will be here forever. Thanks for all the support and all the great messages, guys. You are an inspiration for me, and I can't be grateful enough. So glad to be here.
Okay, thank you. It's late in Budapest. We don't want to take too much time. I've had some epiphanies. I feel like the Niners can win the Super Bowl this year, but there's a few things they have to do. I don't think they're necessarily a contender right now, and I'll explain why. But they're right on the outside looking in, and I don't think there's much in front of them in the NFC. They can do this if they go for it, if they really go all in. And I think they're kind of riding the fence right now between the future and now. So I want to lay out where they stand. I mean, obviously, they got to figure out the injury issue. That'll be the last thing we talk about. But I want to talk about like financials right now, what the Niners need to do. And I want to start off by talking about Dee Ford. Dee Ford's important. We don't talk about him because we don't really expect him to do anything or play, but he's still he's expensive. So why is he still here? I think some Niner fans are hoping that he'll like make an appearance or something. He'll do something. What the reality of the situation is, the Niners really couldn't cut him. If they cut him this year, there would be such a big dead cap hit that it's like you might as well keep him and see if a miracle happens and he can play. So what they did was they renegotiated his deal. They extended it a year. He's here through 2023, although they can probably cut him down the line. But this year, his cap number is 8.9 million. It's fully guaranteed. They can't get rid of it. So most likely, they're in a situation where Dee Ford doesn't play, and that 8.9 million is dead money, along with the 14.1 million they already have in dead money, which means they're up there about 23, 24 million in dead money, which puts you at a disadvantage because Tampa has 2 million. Arizona has 7 million. I mean, these are stacked teams with cheap quarterbacks and none of this crap on their roster. So the Niners, they got to do some cleaning here, and Dee Ford's a problem. He's not going anywhere. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but to be honest about Dee Ford, first of all, all you guys know that I don't really like Dee Ford. I said that before. I'm not a huge fan of him, but I wrote an article about him, about how he played in that 49ers monstrous defensive line in 2019. And I'm still thinking of him as a great addition for this 49ers team, as long as he can play at least 10 games in a single season. If he can do that, then the defensive line will be way better. He can just improve Bosa, Armstead, and the other guys in the defensive line, just because he is a unique combination of strength and speed. There are not so many defensive linemen who can do the same. I'm not sure if there's any, I can say right now, who can do his job as well and with that technique that Dee Ford uses right now. So that's why I think that we will keep him as long as we can. If he can participate at least 10 games this season, and if he can make around 6 or 7 sacks, or if he can help Bosa to get at least 10 or 12 sacks, just because a lot of them will have increased we use increased power to stop this 49ers defensive line if Dee Ford is there. So if he can play 10 games, then it's okay for me if we keep him. And if we just release him next season, I don't see him as a great problem in this 49ers, although I understand that he earns a lot of money in this team right now. And we pay a lot for a guy who most likely won't play next season. So
that's the thing, Botond. He's most likely not going to play. I wouldn't be surprised. I would be surprised if he ever played again. He didn't play last year. His injury, they talk about it like, well, it's a tricky thing. Maybe it'll get better. It's like they're waiting on a miracle because they have no choice because they had to pay him one way or another. It was like pay him to go away or pay him to stick around and maybe get better, maybe. So I think the expectation for Dee Ford is that he's not going to play. That's why they went out and signed Samson. If he does have a miraculous recovery, he's welcome to step on the field whenever he can. I just don't think that's the expectation for Dee Ford. I think the expectation is that he won't play. And the reason he's on this team is a financial clerical thing. They gave him a terrible contract. They couldn't really afford to get rid of him now. And they had to sort of keep him an extra year because they would all the dead money they would have if they gave him up. So I think that's where they stand. You got to think of him as really not being here, as if anything he gives you is gravy, is nice, and it's probably not expected. So I think you got to look at the team as Nick Bosa, Samson Ebukam, and God knows what after that at the edge rusher spot, $24 million in dead cap space, and a little bit behind teams like Tampa and Arizona. So how do you make up the gap? It's not that big. What do? Leads us to my next topic.
You have to trade players.
Well, you got to do something with Jimmy. And I've been saying you got to cut him, you got to trade him. Trading him is going to be tough. No one wants that contract. Cutting him is kind of controversial too because he's popular in the locker room and he's won on this team. It seems that there should be a middle ground here. They can renegotiate his deal. You know, they could say, look, man, you're here. We got you for 2 more years. We can keep you here against your will for 2 more years. Now we give you a lot of money, but you're not worth this. If we were to cut you, no team would give you more than $10 million. He's worth $10 million a year, I would say. If the Niners could say, look, let's renegotiate your deal and take that $2 million, the 2 years, $50 million, forget that. You're never going to get 2 years, $50 million. We'll give you 1 year, $10 million. And so we'll let you out of your contract a year early and we'll promise we won't franchise tag you. You can leave. This is something the Niners did with Colin Kaepernick in 2016. He had 4 years on his deal. They brought it down to 2 with a player option, and then he used it, and he's never played again. So there's precedent. What do you think renegotiating Jimmy Garoppolo's contract down to $10 million and saving $17 million in cap space?
I don't think that he will agree the terms with that new deal right now. I think that he understands that he has to play this season, and right now I don't see a team who will sign him as a starting quarterback in the NFL. And Jimmy is a smart guy. I'm not saying that he's smart like, I don't know, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, but he is smart enough to know that if he doesn't play this season, he won't play in the NFL in the future as a starting quarterback. And I still think that he wants to be a starting quarterback. That's why there were rumors that he is more motivated than ever, that he built up his muscles during the off season. Well, as I see it right now, Kyle and John want Jimmy to have some value because I still think that they want to trade him. I'm not necessarily thinking that they are thinking of a pay cut of Jimmy Garoppolo, although that could be a great answer for this problem, for this money problem that the team has right now. So what I see right now is Jimmy gets what he wants with that huge amount of money. And if we are lucky, we can trade him during the season before trade deadline. Because what I think of right now, okay, we don't have a complete roster yet. I'm not necessarily thinking that we will be in the playoffs with this roster right now at the current state with these injuries that is happening constantly with this team. So I'm still thinking of it that they will keep Jimmy Garoppolo. They want Jimmy to stay motivated. That's why they won't try to cut his payments during the season. And after he delivers some great matches, they will try to trade him, because what I think of is there will be injuries during the season, and before the trade deadline, if we can trade him, we can add some value for those players who are injured, in the place of those players who are injured during the season.
I don't think anyone's trading for Jimmy Garoppolo's contract. $27 million with the pandemic lowering the cap space this year. I think it's unmovable, the contract. I think what they should do to Jimmy is sit him down and look and say this. I know you don't want to take a pay cut, but you're not worth $27 million in 2021. You're not. You know it. If we were to cut you right now, some team would give you a 1-year, $10 million deal. A prove-it deal. You haven't been good enough. You haven't been durable enough. That's your value. So we could cut you, and you could go God knows where for 1 year, $10 million. Some team that's really not committed to you, or you could take it here, help the team, be a leader, and leave next year. Be on a team that you know, in an offense that you know. We're not saying you're not going to play. You could beat out Trey Lance, but you can't play for $27 million. And if you want us to cut you, we'll do that. And you can go get $10 million somewhere else. It's basically your choice is where do you want to get $10 million this year? Here on a team that you know, on a good team that could go to the Super Bowl, or in Houston, or, somewhere else, Denver. What do you want to do?
Okay. Let's rotate the question with 180 degrees. Quarterback of a contender team injures during the season. Jimmy Garoppolo still doesn't worth his contract for a trade.
There's just not that many teams that have the cap space to take on $27 million.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's not. There's not that big prorated bonus, so that a team would have to take on like 23 plus million. I don't think there's that many teams that can do it. Now you could extend his deal and renegotiate it, but how many teams want to give Jimmy Garoppolo a 4-year deal right now? I don't know. I think the Niners have leverage here, Botond. I really do. I think they could say, look, man, we could just cut you. We're this close. We can't afford you. And if we cut you, here's probably what you're going to make elsewhere. So why don't we just give you that? And we'll let you out of the contract early. You can go wherever the hell you want to go next year. Or if you want to go right now, fine. Because we have a lot. We have plans for the money we could save. We have other people we want to sign.
Okay, but some other team can reconstructure his contract after the trade.
Okay.
That's an option too. I don't know what you think.
What if he gets beat out by Trey Lance and he's the backup? You're not trading him.
Wow.
And now you got all that money. That's another problem. You have Trey Lance is going to make about $6 million this year. Jimmy's making 27. So that's 33 at a position. You can only play one guy at a time. It's too much. If Jimmy was making 10 and Trey was making 6, keep them both on the team. Play them. I mean, whoever wins. It doesn't matter. I think he needs to, for the good of the team, however you want to think about it, Jimmy, the Niners have given you $90 million for like 30 games. Take a pay cut, dude. They've given you $90 million. You're not worth 27 anymore. For the good of the team, for the good of the franchise, be a good guy. Give some money back. You know you're not worth that money. You're hurting your team taking that money. This is what I would say to Jimmy if I were in the negotiating room. He may not go for it.
But sadly, we are not there. But sadly, we are not there.
The coach says you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. If Jimmy doesn't want to negotiate, that's a tough sell. It's too soon to see if Jimmy would get scooped up. Okay. Yep, people could get hurt. He could have a market. Jeremy says, I feel like Jimmy is McGlinchey's replacement on Grant's blacklist. Hello, come on, Grant. No more rid of Jimmy narrative until after the training camp, please. I'm just trying to get him to renegotiate his deal. I'm trying to get $17 million in cap space. I don't see why he would be against this. I mean, it's the right thing to do. The Niners have given him a ton of money. He can't act like they wronged him. They set him up for life. His entire family tree for the generations. Chris says, could someone trade then restructure his contract? I think they'll play him till trade deadline then move him. Yes, someone could do that, but who's going to do that? Maybe New England. They just drafted a quarterback. Who's going to do that? And then I'm saying if he gets hurt, here's the thing with the Niners and why I feel like they're in a very precarious position. $14 million in dead cap right now, plus the 8.9 from Dee Ford is 24 or whatever, and then 23. And then when Jimmy gets hurt, which he most likely will, that's what he does. Then that's $49 million in dead cap space essentially, and you're screwed. Now you're screwed.
Yeah.
So you can't let Jimmy play and get hurt. The season's over if he plays and gets hurt. So renegotiate now, trade him now. Him going out there and playing on that cap number is just so scary to me. I don't think as soon as he gets hurt, your season's over. He's too expensive.
Yeah.
So
that's true. Sad but true.
It's sad but true. And again, Jimmy on a 1-year, $10 million contract is good business. I think he's worth that. I'd take him. So I don't know, Jimmy. Do it for me. Do it for Botond. Do it for the good of the team, the good of the city. Re-sign Warner. Yeah, do that too. I don't know how else to say re-sign Warner every week, but okay. So let's say the Niners, let's put it like this. Let's say the 49ers get Jimmy Garoppolo to restructure his contract. And they go from paying him $26 million this year to 10. And they save $16 million. They can sign some people. And to me, the guy they should sign, the number one guy they should sign is Justin Houston. I don't think people realize how good Justin Houston is. First of all, he's only 32, not super old for a pass rusher. He played 16 games last year and the year before that. And he's better than Dee Ford. Anything you want to say about Justin Houston real quick before I pull up his stats?
Wow. The guy is a beast. He's close to 100 sacks.
97!
During his NFL's career. He is still great. He's still got the power. I do think that he is still amongst the best pass rushers in the league. And right now, in the current situation, yes, he's better than Dee Ford. I think if we still want to improve our defensive line, we should consider signing him.
Let me tell you some numbers real quick, all right? This guy's been in the league since 2011. That year he had 5.5 sacks. Since then, here is yearly sack numbers. 12. In 2012, he had 10 sacks. Then 11 and 13. 22 and 14. He had 7.5 in 11 games in 15. 4 sacks in 5 games in 16. 9.5 sacks in 17. 9 sacks in 18 in 12 games. 11 sacks in 19. 8 sacks last year. This guy's a guaranteed 8 sacks a year. He's really good. He's durable. I mean, Melvin Ingram missed a bunch of games last year. Everson Griffin missed his time and is kind of fallen off. This guy's just really, really good. And he's waiting for the right contract. You're not going to get him for $5 million. You got to give him $10 million, $11 million.
Or more.
But the thing is, I mean, I would think 11 could get it done. Over the cap has him as like estimated at 11. Niners don't have 11 to give him. If they renegotiate Jimmy, they do. Whoever gets Justin Houston is going to have a big boost. Let's say he goes to the Ravens. He's going to go to a contender and make them an even bigger contender. Why not the Niners? Yeah. Because right now they got Nick Bosa, who's coming off a serious injury, and Samson Ebukam, who has 10 sacks in his career.
Yeah.
Why not have a third guy?
Well, I'm still thinking, and I can't agree with you about Dee Ford. I still think that the 49ers are thinking of him as their starter defensive end as long as he can stay healthy. That's why I still think that they won't sign Justin Houston, but they should at least they consider.
Right. Whatever the Niners are expecting, I'm betting against Dee Ford. And I'm saying now on June 21, if the Niners' plan is to hope and pray that Dee Ford comes back, I got a better plan. It's called sign Justin Houston, because there's no hoping and praying with Justin Houston. You're getting 8 sacks. I like him. And it's a rotation. It would keep Nick Bosa fresh. It wouldn't put too much pressure on Samson Ebukam to transition and turn into some player he has never been in his life. So I like it. But it's something you can't do unless you renegotiate Jimmy Garoppolo. This is why I'm saying talk to Jimmy. Work this out. A lot of people come like, hey, there's no point. They missed their opportunity. Justin Houston is going to change the fortunes of some team. He's a hell of a player. Should be the Niners. And I got more players. Jeremy Price. Jeremy Price says true. He should reconstruct that contract or win in the Super Bowl. I mean, I just feel like it's the right thing to do from Jimmy's perspective. That he's made a lot of money not playing. It's a pandemic year. Most of the quarterbacks have renegotiated their cap number below 12 million. 19 of the 32 starters. Why not you, Jimmy? Why not you? Another guy, Todd Gurley. I know it's ridiculous, but Todd Gurley's cheap. You could get Todd Gurley for $2-3 million, I would think. He also went to college with Justin Houston, Georgia Bulldog. You could bring them both. And we mentioned the production that Justin Houston brings. He's just guaranteed 8 sacks. He brings you the production. You want to pay for that. Well, the thing about Todd Gurley, he's not explosive anymore. You're not going to run your offense through him. He's not going to bring you down the field. But this guy has 79 touchdowns in 6 seasons. He had 9 last season. He is a good red zone running back. He's a good rotational goal line back who can catch the ball too. A lot like Jeff Wilson Jr. He's a nice replacement for Jeff Wilson Jr. I don't think the Niners have a replacement for Jeff Wilson Jr. in a 3-man rotation of Mostert, Sermon, and Gurley. I think complements each other and is relatively cheap. What do you think?
The first draft profile that I have ever written about draft candidate was Todd Gurley's draft profile. And I was really high on him. I really liked how he played back then when he was a Georgia Bulldog. And I'm still pretty high on him. But there is tremendous amount of talent in the 49ers running back corp. So I'm not necessarily thinking of Todd Gurley right now as a huge addition for this team. I think that Trey Sermon will be better at those things that Gurley is good at. So, although I liked him, I'm not thinking of him right now as a great running back in the NFL, but I admitted that he is a great red zone target as a running back. And the other problem is that I have written down when he was drafted is I'm still not thinking of him as a guy who can catch passes, great passes. He's not a necessarily great pass catcher as I see him. And Kyle Shanahan likes those type of running backs who are great at catching the ball. So these are my problems with Todd Gurley.
Those are very good problems. You know, the thing is, I think Trey Sermon's really good at catching the ball, and I think Mostert's a good receiver too. The thing with Trey Sermon, he profiles as a bigger back. He had 4 touchdowns last season. I mean, I'm not sure that that's his game, and I don't really like giving the ball to Mostert on the goal line, although he gives a good effort. The thing with Gurley is, even though he's not the player he used to be, he's not explosive. I mean, here are his touchdown totals by season. Rookie, 10 touchdowns. 2016, 6 touchdowns. 2017, 19 touchdowns. 2018, 21 touchdowns. 2019, 14 touchdowns. 2020, 9 touchdowns. And the Niners have to replace touchdowns in their offense. Kittle has given them 14 touchdowns in 4 seasons. That's not really what he does. Ayuk will score. Debo should score. But Jordan Reed's gone. I think Jeff Wilson is gone for a while. He had 10 touchdowns last year. I think they need touchdowns. And this guy, Todd Gurley, he's $3 million. Yeah, he's got a messed up knee, but if he gives him 10 touchdowns this season for $3 million, that's money well spent. I mean, you'd only give him like maybe 100 carries tops. Rotation.
Well, I like the idea.
Rotation
somehow, but
at a price.
You are not necessarily paying $3 million for a rotational running back right now, when running back position is not as important as it was about 10 years ago. So if a running back for a lot less money can do the same, why don't they do that? Why we should sign Todd Gurley, who is not as explosive as he was? We all know that with aging, running backs are getting worse at acceleration. I'm concerned.
I'm concerned about the loss of Jeff Wilson Jr. I know a lot of people feel like whatever, like they have other running backs. All I know is Jeff Wilson Jr. is a hell of a goal line back, a hell of a receiver, and he scores touchdowns. I don't know what Trey Sermon's going to be in the NFL. I don't even know if he's going to be healthy. He missed an entire season in 2019. So I feel like if it's not Gurley, there are other guys you could add, but the Niners should, if they renegotiate Jimmy's deal and sign Justin Houston, there's more money to play with, is what I'm saying. They shouldn't just stop at Justin Houston. There's more money. It doesn't have to be Todd Gurley. It could be Alshon Jeffrey. It could be Golden Tate. There are players who have produced, who could continue to produce for the 49ers if they clear up some money. And I think they're a couple of moves away. If they sign a guy on offense and a guy on defense with the money they're currently overspending for Jimmy Garoppolo, now you're talking. Now you got a Super Bowl team. And I don't know if it's Gurley, but it could be Alshon Jeffrey. I just feel like Alshon Jeffrey's a little old, but so is Gurley. I don't know.
Sign Golden Tate.
Golden Tate? Bingo.
In my opinion.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, about Jeff Wilson, I was the guy who said that I do think before the season, before the injury, that Jeff Wilson is going to be the leading back for this team in rushing yards.
Yeah, I love Jeff Wilson.
I love him. I do think that we will miss him a lot. And we had problems in the past in the red zone with our red zone offense. And right now I do think that we will have problems without Jeff Wilson in the red zone. I'm concerned about that, and I still think that Golden Tate can help us out somehow with his experience, because he can play as a possession receiver as well, and that's a position which is so underrated right now, and that we don't have right now with the loss of Kendrick Bourne. So sign Golden Tate. I want Golden Tate to be a 49ers player. So
okay, so let's say the Niners renegotiate Jimmy, get him down to 10 million, keep him, sign Justin Houston, sign Golden Tate or Todd Gurley, whoever. How do you and the Niners stay healthy How do you gauge their Super Bowl chances then?
About 30%, I think. Right now, it's about 5, in my opinion, because there aren't so many holes, but there are holes that is going to be problem on the long term, not on a short term, but on a long term, yes. So we will be in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure, but it's most likely because of our schedule and because of how many talent we have on the offensive side of the ball. But
I see it differently, man. If they can pull this off and bring in Justin Houston and a Golden Tate or Todd Gurley, I really think they'd have a team that could compete with Tampa in the NFC. I think if the Niners do that, renegotiate Jimmy, bring in two starters, a guy on offense, a guy on defense, and not even starters, but contributors, big-time producers. I think the NFC is between the Niners and Tampa. I think they've closed the gap. I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to beat Kansas City. You kind of need their entire offensive line to be hurt to beat Kansas City. They're that good. But in the NFC, I really look at it as Tampa and everyone else. And if the Niners could just add Justin Houston and one more guy, it would be Tampa, the 49ers, and everyone else. I think Justin Houston's that good. But so I think they're that close. And of course, the injury issue is a huge thing. So why don't we talk about it? Yeah. Because how are they going to do it? Over the weekend, I interviewed a doctor, Dr. Narav Pandya. He had really interesting points. And basically what he was saying was, of course, you can't keep bringing in injury-prone players. And Niners have done a better job of that recently. But he also said there's something with the practices. Harbaugh used to have really long practices. I don't know. When you played football, did you have 3-hour practices or 90-minute practices?
3 hours practices.
3 hours. Okay, that's how it used to be. That's how Harbaugh did it. Since the new collective bargaining agreement came into effect 10 years ago, really what players want. I guess they feel in those 3-hour practices a lot of banging heads, a lot of banging heads. So what they do is now it's 90-minute practices. There's less head banging, but there's the same amount of running that there was in the 3-hour practices. So what you're seeing is a lot of explosive exercise and a competition in a compressed time with very little recovery time. So what's the byproduct? Soft tissue injuries. When accelerating, decelerating, cutting. Yeah. It's been on the rise for 10 years. This is something that Kyle does. He has very intense short practices. One thing he could do would be to go, low and slow and easy, considering it's a long season. It's now 18 weeks and it's only June. So that's basically a fix that Kyle Shanahan could make. Do you think he'll make it? He's already said he won't change a thing about his training camp, but he often lies. He'll often say he's not doing something, but he really is. Do you think Kyle Shanahan will have an epiphany and make the change he needs to make?
Kyle is a smart guy.
He's very smart, super smart.
He is that kind of smart guy who won't admit if he is not right at the moment.
Yeah.
So I do think that he will change some things during practices, but don't think of things.
Yeah. Not wholesale changes, right?
Yeah. About half an hour more practice during a day or something like that. And he will try some things out. Maybe he will make longer practices and see how we can go with the injuries, what is going to happen, what are going to be the new tendencies for this team with the injuries. And after that, if he likes what he sees, then maybe there will be much longer practices during the season. He's a smart guy. He is an analytic mind. And I do think that there are some things which can make him change his thinking about his coaching routines.
Okay, I'm with you, man. I think he's stubborn. I think that's the word for him. He's stubborn. So I think there's like 4 characteristics at play here, and I'm going to name them. Okay, he's very smart. He's a great coordinator. There's 4 things at play here: perception, like seeing the problem. Do you see it? Decision making, what you want to do about it. Flexibility, the ability to say you were wrong and change, and then organization and planning. That's like doing the practices the right way, changing the practices the right way. So let's start with perception. We all see that there's a problem with his practices. They're too intense. We all see it. Does he? This is my number one. This is where it starts with Kyle. He doesn't see reality sometimes. He's very subjective. He sees what he wants to see. If we were to ask him point blank, Kyle, do you have an issue with injuries in practice? He would say, no, it's football. Am I wrong?
Nope, but
He would disagree with the whole premise.
Somehow I must disagree with you. I don't know if you remember last season, we have seen some games when Kyle tried to give the game into Jimmy's hand to make him win the game alone. And a lot of guys from the media, you and me as well, said that, Kyle, why don't you try to give some more Jimmy gimmies into the hands of Jimmy? Mm-hmm. And he did that. So Kyle is the kind of a guy. Kyle is the kind of a guy who is stubborn for the first time, stubborn for the second, maybe stubborn for the 50th time.
That's true.
But after that,
yep,
somehow he will change and admit that you were right. He won't say that.
Good point.
He won't say that.
He won't say it. He'll just do it.
There will be a tendency when he adapts the new things, but he will adapt.
See, here's my thing with him. Like, we've already asked him about the injuries, and he's already said, like, they're not related. They're all freak injuries. One guy was warming up. One guy was standing up. One guy was playing football. What do you want me to do? It's part of the sport. So there's right there. There's a perception issue. We're saying there's a pattern and there's an issue. He's saying there's no pattern and it's just football. So right there, he's at a deficit. The second thing, decision making, like making the right decision to fix this. He's not in a position to do it because he's so stubborn. His stubbornness comes into play in the decision making. The third thing, behavioral flexibility. Again, how can he change if he's right? He's always right, Botond. He's right about this, and I'm wrong. He knows more than me. I'm wrong. He's right. So he's not going to flex. Like, I'm always coming on this show. I'll bring you on. I'll bring Vish on. I'll hear something. I'll be like, man, I hadn't thought of it that way. I'm changing my opinion. Kyle doesn't do that. He's very rigid, and it takes him. You said it takes him like the 50th time to finally come around, and he won't even admit it. He'll be like, all right, I'm just going to draft Trey Lance and not talk about it. Okay, final thing, the organization and the planning. I mean, he could get there if he had the other three things in line, but he's never going to get to, I need to adjust my practices, because he's going to say there's nothing wrong with my practices. I'm always right, and I'm always right. So that's the problem, man.
Yeah, that's a problem. But I'm still thinking of him as a guy who adapts new things, but it takes a lot of time for him to do that.
Yes.
And I do think that all of the genius people around the world are kind of stubborn.
Yes. Yes, and, absolutely.
Somehow it's because of that they know that they are some kind of genius during a part of his life, or
that's right.
Or part of the things that they are doing, and that's why they admit it a lot harder than they were wrong about something.
True.
And sometimes they don't even admit that they were wrong about things.
You're right.
They just change the things really slowly, that after they changed that thing, they can say that, okay, I was the one who wanted to change.
That's true. That's true. But I'm saying natural leaders are guys that take the blame on themselves.
That's
guys who say that I'm wrong. Natural leaders. And I think these four traits, perception, decision-making, flexibility, organizational, and planning, what I've been saying is these are traits that express themselves in a young adult. You got it or you don't by young adulthood. Just going from 20 to 40 or 40 to 60 doesn't necessarily make you more flexible. Doesn't necessarily make you better at organizing. My closet's a mess. It's been a mess since I was 14 years old. I'm not good at organizing. I am good at perception, though. I can watch a practice and tell you the truth. Kyle's over there in his own world, his own subjective world, where he thinks he sees things differently. That's a drawback for him. So he's always going to have a lot of money and a job in the NFL. The question is he the right? Because to me, it's not necessarily a Kyle issue, the injury thing. But if it's going to get fixed, it's going to be because of Kyle. He needs to make the decisions and the changes that put in motion the solution. And I don't know if he will, but we're laying it out for him. And as you said, he's sneaky with his flexibility. He doesn't talk about it, but it's there. We need it now. We need it. It's year 5, Kyle. And you need to do this now. You can't figure this out next year or the year after. You're having a slight issue at OTAs. Listen to Botond. He had 3-hour practices. Can you take us through the pace of a 3-hour practice? I remember him with Harbaugh. I could take you through that.
Yeah. The other thing with the leadership thing is being a leader can be an ability that you were born with. But somehow it can be learned. But for stubborn guys like Kyle Shanahan, it takes a lot of time. And I do think that we have to be patient with him, because there are certain things which he is the best.
Yes.
In which he is the
certainly.
best.
I'm patient with Kyle. I'm here. We're here trying to help him, man.
And he needs a lot of help. That's why I think that they were a perfect combination with Robert Saleh, because Robert Saleh has that natural born leadership thing inside him, which Kyle lacks of. So that's why I think right now that he has to improve himself as a leader, and I think he showed some signs that he's improving as a leader. Because last year was the first season when Kyle said that there were a lot of faults. We made a lot of mistakes, and I made a lot of mistakes too.
Good for him.
It was the first time when Kyle said that during his career in the NFL.
Yep, you're right. You're right. And if he comes in this offseason at training camp and has a different training camp schedule, I'll give him nothing but praise. I really admire that he drafted Trey Lance. He made the right call on that. And I think it was tough for him. I think he had I still never forget how he acted at that Monday press conference before the draft. He seemed upset. Whatever, man. If you had to get there kicking and screaming, great. You got there. You made the right pick. That's the right call, and it was against your tendency. Now you got to get there with your training camps too. I mean, there's been at least 35 players who have gotten hurt in his practices. That's too much. That's totally preventable. I remember when Harbaugh was the coach, 2.5, 3-hour practices, they would do a lot of running plays, Botond. Hand off to Gore. Hand off to Kendall Hunter. There's not a lot of sprinting in running plays. Gore runs up the middle. Everyone comes by. They tag him. The play is over. And you go to the next play, and they ran the ball again. Kyle is doing a ton of sprinting, a ton of passing in 90 minutes. I think just go slow, go a little easier. Remember, you're trying to be healthy in January. The playoffs don't even start until mid-January now. It's a marathon. Don't get players hurt competing in June. It's a real easy fix. I think he can do it. I think he can do it. I believe in him. Longer practices. It's like the players will hate him. They trust him. This is what's best for us and the team. They'll say, okay, longer practices.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. You have to understand what is important for you in the long term, because, okay, I understand that Kyle wants his offense to be the quickest, the fastest, the strongest, and things like that. But you can't just improve these things in long term with short practices. I mean, stamina and things like that are much more important than being fast periodically.
Right.
So that's what I think.
If you can make yourself, so let's say you can make your team 1% better that day in a practice, sure. But you can also make it way worse with injuries.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So chasing that 1% in June at the risk of losing Jeff Wilson Jr., Tavarius Moore, Justin School isn't worth it. You can make yourself, you're really honestly going to make your team worse than better. Like the skills that you're teaching are minuscule. And then you lose a guy and it's like, well, you beat yourself because you couldn't get your team healthy for the season.
Yeah, it's kind of like balancing yourself on the edge of a knife.
Yep.
You can do that.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. But if you fail, then it will be horrible.
Yes.
Horrible.
So I really think the Niners are in a good spot to end. I always come across as negative. What I'm trying to say is the Niners are like 3 things away. Okay.
Yeah.
Just convince Jimmy to take a pay cut. They've given him so much money. I think they should be able to do it. Get his salary down, sign 2 more players, and tweak the practices. That's so doable. It's so doable. And if they do it, they got as good of a chance as Tampa. I really think they do.
That's for sure.
So I'd like to see the Niners make like 2 or 3 more moves. They got plenty of time. It's only June. They could make moves in August. They could do the thing with Jimmy in August. So no rush, no pressure, but this is what you got to do. You're not there right now. You're not there yet.
Just consider it.
Yeah, just consider it. And if you do it, we'll take credit. You won't even have to give us credit. Don't worry.
Yeah.
All right, Botond. Thanks for letting me yell at you for the last 40 minutes. Sometimes I appreciate it, man.
It was a pleasure for me.
All right, man. Well, have a good night.
And I do think that in the past about 30 weeks, this was the most positive show we have ever done. Seriously.
I think so. It was constructive. It's not like, well, they're not as good as they think they are. This is a problem. It's like, no. They can do it. They can win the Super Bowl. They might be closer than they think, but they got to do X, Y, Z. Straight up. They got to do X, Y, Z, and they know it. Do it. So I'm glad we could help them. I feel like we earned the nickel they never pay us today.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's for sure. All right,
for
man.
sure.
Go eat dinner and go to sleep or whatever. It's been a long day for you, man. I don't know if you could tell, but Boton's had a long day. Boton
Yeah.
works hard.
Yeah, it's about 8 p.m. here. I'm tired as hell. I've got a headache.
Crash.
It's really hot here in Hungary right now. So summer came in and it's 40 Celsius almost. So
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds awful.
Yeah, we are dying here right now.
All right. Well, I can't sleep when it's hot, so get the fan going. Do something.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about you.
That's what we are doing constantly. Right. Have a nice day, guys. I was glad to be here. See you next time.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll be back later on today with Vish. See you guys.
See you.